Hi, my name is Win, and I'm a real estate investor and entrepreneur. Welcome to my channel where we cover every aspect of the entrepreneurial journey. Today, I want to talk about some personality traits, in specific, negative ones that really slowed me down in the past. Now, we all exhibit them, but it's best to know when they come up, recognize them, so we don't get stuck in a rut. I've turned some of these traits into mnemonic characters to make these concepts more memorable. Tell me if you see yourself in any of these traits. Number 1. Negative Nancy. I think this is the most toxic out of all the personality traits. A negative Nancy is essentially what it sounds like. Somebody who tends to be more pessimistic, don't think of any possibilities. Essentially, they stifle any innovation or any creativity before it can grow and take off. Oftentimes, when you're starting business, you're going to hear a lot of this from your friends and family, especially if you have big dreams. I surely got a share of it from my friends and family when I started. And even in business, there's still going to be moments of negativity, even with yourself. And so you have to learn to recognize it and try to overcome it. Essentially, what happens if you go down this road too long, it just creates a fixed mindset. And so you don't have any creativity. It kills your creativity and it kills your imagination. And those are things that you need the most to succeed in entrepreneurship. Number 2. Excuses Andy. I've suffered from this one personally a lot. It's Excuses Andy is somebody who has a reason to not do the most important thing that needs to be done. And so they'll make up reasons as to why they can't do what they need to do to take the business or themselves to another level. And sometimes it's hard because some of these reasons are valid reasons, but in entrepreneurship, you have to make do with what you got and the cards that you're dealt. And so if you are always making excuses, then perhaps you need to change that up and utilize your time a lot better than you have. One way to make sure that you are not falling in the trap of excuses Andy is that you can ask other people if some of the excuses that you're making are valid excuse, and if this behavior tends to be more of a pattern than just an isolated incident. And so I think oftentimes whether you're making excuses or whether you're really trying. Number 3. Parking Lot Larry. This came about because before you go on a road trip, traditionally people would look at maps. And so you're either in your parking lot looking at the maps, finding every route and which way that you need to turn to get there. So essentially, you become a master of the route. But the problem is parking lot Larrys will never step on the gas. So they'll more or less just tell you everything about it, and then you go to ask them like, okay, what have you done? And then the excuses come in. Oh, I haven't done it because of what have you. That's a parking lot Larry. Number 4. Fearful Fred. Fearful Fred is, I think, something that we all suffer from, and it's healthy for us to suffer from it in a little bit so we don't go and make rash decisions. However, it can also stifle us from making any kind of progress also. I think fear is innate in all of us, and it's in our genes to be fearful. However, some certain actions really take you to the next level, and an overwhelming amount of fear really has slowed me down in the beginning of my entrepreneurial journey. And so if you can find ways to cope with your fear and act accordingly, I think you'll progress a lot faster than I did. Number 5. Scatterbrained Sally. A scatterbrained Sally is somebody who fears missing out, and so she or he will embark on every venture and then in the end not make much traction on any venture. And so if you look at any interview of anyone who has been great in their field, it's because of really two big things, and it's focus on what they're trying to accomplish and pushing everything aside, and number two, having clarity in what they want to accomplish. And so anytime that I start looking around, and then I start notice I'm being a scatterbrained Sally, I try to refocus back into the things that will really make traction. When you spread yourself too thin, that's when really you don't make any change in your pursuits. So these are the five. How do you overcome them? I don't think there's a secret sauce for everybody. I think after reading so many books, I start to realize the books that really affected me essentially didn't say a different message. It was just how the author wrote it. It just was explained in the right words, and at that moment, my mind was ready to accept it, and so that changed the way that I acted. And so there's not going to be a one size fits all in regards to overcoming some of these. I'll just share some of the few that has worked with me. Number one is self-talk. You've got to change the way that you think about yourself. There's a underlying dialogue and a narrative that everybody has, and whether they realize it or not, and you gotta dig down to what your narrative is, whether it's, hey, I'm a successful entrepreneur, or I'm stuck in my day job, or I'm gonna be the next Bill Gates. You really have to really believe that narrative. Number two would be your mindset. If you read Carol Dweck's mindset, she talks about a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. You got to make sure that you don't fall into the fixed mindset where you believe that everything you were born with is the skills that you have. You got to know that your mind is malleable and you can change it. Some of other tactics that have really helped me is meditation and practicing stoicism. Meditation, I think, clears out your mind from the baggage that you have just sitting in there and lets you operate in a cleaner mind frame. And Stoicism is a philosophical study wherein it's a practice of not letting your emotions take control and you taking control of your emotions. This will definitely help you keep your emotions in check, and I do recommend some of the works by Ryan Holiday. Great insight into Stoicism without all the wordy philosophy stuff. So these are the five that I've ran to the most and have had most experiences because I've been one of the five or all of the five at one time in my life. And I don't really think that these traits really go away. I think they're innate in us. I think the only thing we can do is to live essentially with some of these traits and just make sure that some of these traits are not stifling your productivity. I hope this benefited you. These are some of the things I still struggle with. Write in the comments if you're still struggling some of them, and if you have any more tactics to overcome some of these, do add it into the comments too. Don't forget, if you like the content and this is helpful to you, please subscribe and like. Until next time.